You built one of the fastest growing banks in Pakistan, which has over $4 billion in assets. You built one of the largest steel industries.
It's the first zero carbon steel maker in the Middle East.
How would you categorize yourself?
My general operating principle in terms of my own executive role is to not be CEO. That's very clear to me. A CEO would spend half his time managing the business, his overall administration, managing his board, managing shareholders. There's a lot of these kinds of tasks. I find that for me, that role of spending more than half your time doing these things means that you don't have half your time to do creative things. It's never made sense to lose half my time.
I know you're not on Twitter, you're not on LinkedIn, you're not on any social media platform. So do you just read books and meet people, and that's how you form your understanding of the world?
A short story first. I filled an application form for a tech conference, and in the form, it had blanks for Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, 2 or 3 other things like that.
Right.
So I left it blank because I don't have any of those things, and I sent them the form. And they called and said, listen, you've left half the form blank. I said, that's because I don't have any of these things. And they said, the person on the phone said, this is a tech conference. Do you even exist? I can't believe I'm going to say this on a podcast, but...
Welcome to We the Builders.
Thank you.
Thank you for doing your first long form podcast or anything over 6 minutes that I've ever seen on YouTube and doing it with me. I'm curious, why did you say yes?
This sounds weird, but you're an interesting guy. I've known you since you were, I guess, just starting out, right?
I was 20 when I met you.
Yeah. So, and then I thought, if you're asking, so I should do it. Simple.
Huh.
The 6-minute thing is, I think I can usually say what I have to say in a very short period of time. When called upon to speak on a stage, usually they say 10, 15, 20 minutes. And I'm like, I can get done in 5. I can say what I need to say and we've been done with this. And, so yeah, I was a little bit intimidated that this is long, but let's give it a go.
I have had limited interactions with you, but I think I've shared this with you privately that you've had some of the most formative impact on me in my earlier years. I think one of them was, I guess, one of the kindest things one could do is back someone and in their own way. And I remember when I first met you in New York City, 2017. You're like, oh, what you're doing sounds pretty awesome, pretty cool. It didn't matter if I was successful. You just saw that, okay, this person's at least trying to make things happen. And you were like 15 or 20 minutes into, there were 5 other people with us. We were 15, 20 minutes into meeting each other. You don't know me. You look at me and you're like, I know the prime minister. I'm very close to his sons. You should become friends with his sons. I'm going to introduce you. And I'll set up a meeting with the prime minister. I'm like, okay. It was surreal. I was 21, right? So it was completely surreal. And that completely shifted my perspective on what you can do in life. Completely. And I was probably one of 1,000 people you did something for that year, but completely shifted what was possible for me since then, right? So that was one formative thing, I think, one formative experience with you. So thank you. I'm very grateful for you for that. And the other was, I would come and, try to get past your chief of staff, try to bug you, try to catch you in the office, in the prime minister's office. That's where you used to work at the time. Try to pick your brain on all sorts of stuff, I remember. And this one app you showed me was called Relationship Science. And I knew relationships were important and networks are important, but probably not to the gravity at which I realized in that, or after that moment, not even in that moment, after I reflected on that. You're showing me on how, you can map paths to different people and everyone is 3 to 6 degrees away. And you're like, oh, add me and see like who you can get to. And I did. And I never asked you for an intro or anything, right? But it was so fascinating to see. I'm like, oh, I could probably get to anyone in the world. And that stuck. That's how those 2 things like sort of became life philosophies. You can get to anyone in the world if you really want to. and you can pretty much do anything. And I would say that's played some role in my success. Not an active, but definitely a passive one. So thank you.
I'm delighted to hear both those comments. There's a third piece to this, which is that, and I think you obviously know this, that people are just people. Even if someone is 6 degrees of separation away and they have a title and they have a motorcade, in the end, they're just people. They have the same life experience, broadly speaking. They have the same insecurities.
Yeah.
They also get bullied by their siblings and, whatever else happens in life. And I think you know that. But if people remember that, that's quite liberating, I guess.
I never got a chance to ask you this, but I have to now. Why did you introduce me to the Prime Minister back then?
I can't remember. I remember our meeting very much in New York, in the hotel we met. Clearly, it was obvious to me there were 5 other people in the same organization that you represented at the time, HALT.
Yeah.
But you stood out, right? So credit to you. I worked for the Prime Minister, so I used his time very judiciously. Yeah, but I didn't go around offering meetings with him.
I could imagine.
Most of my time was killing meetings with him.
I know. This thing, you were basically the Prime Minister's chief of staff, right? So what we had to go through with your chief of staff was your job in a way.
Yeah.
And he was in New York for only 2 days. He's meeting meeting other world leaders, and he had a meeting with Bill Gates on the same trip, and we end up with him for 45 minutes, which is absurd.
Yeah.
But either way, I'm grateful for it. Grateful for it. So I guess I didn't get to see you in the time that you built up your earlier businesses in Pakistan. You for audience who don't have context, Ali has built one of some of the most successful businesses in Pakistan and in the Middle East. You built one of the fastest growing banks in Pakistan, which has over $4 billion in assets or somewhere around that. I don't know. I picked up stuff from the publicly available information. You can correct or you built one of the largest steel industries. You set up a manufacturing facility in the UAE.
It's the first zero carbon steel maker in the Middle East. And it's possible it was the first in the world, although there's no ranking data. But in the Middle East, we were awarded at COP28 a prize for being the first zero carbon steel maker in the Middle East.
Nobody thinks of setting up a steel industry in the UAE, let alone, a carbon-friendly, emission-friendly steel industry. So that's incredible. And just the range that I've observed in your career is pretty incredible. You went from the financial services industry to investment banking, to venture capital, and pretty much wore any hat you were interested in. So my question is this. There's an archetype of entrepreneur that likes to be in the driver's seat, that likes to be the CEO, and they would do that one job for 10, 20, 30 years. That's their life's work, and that's how they're the most productive, or that's what they find meaning in. And then there's another archetype of an entrepreneur who has incredible range, and they go about operating these different businesses in many different ways, right? One example could be Elon Musk. One could be Brad Jacobs. It's some people who've built multi-billion dollar businesses, right?
I haven't heard of them, but sure.
Oh, okay.
I'm kidding.
In case the audience hasn't. Or a Peter Thiel who, who's more of an investor hat, but goes in, joins, at least from, I don't know him, but from the outside, would join as chair of the board, right? Co-founded Palantir, ended up chair of the board. He was on the board of the Southern Company chapter. I interviewed the CEO actually in a couple of pods ago. So he ends up in different ways to affect change, right? So these are different models. How would you categorize yourself?
So at different times in my career, I've done different things and had different roles as part of that. my general operating principle in terms of my own executive role is to not be CEO. That's very clear to me. I find that that's a job that is well suited to a certain personality type, and I just don't have that personality type. A CEO will spend half his time managing the business, his overall administration, managing his board, managing shareholders. Other than raising capital, that's different. Just managing shareholders, essentially doing senior level
Relationship
investor
management.
relations. Yeah, relationship management, investor relations at a high level. Is responsible for HR for the entire organization, not just his direct reportees. So there's a lot of dealing with regulators, lobbying. There's a lot of these kinds of tasks, and I find that when people are in that position, some people are very good at this. I find that for me, that role of spending at least more than half your time doing these things means that you don't have half your time to do creative things or do product development or do sales. And for me, it's never made sense to lose that half my time. So I have over the years served as board chair in businesses I started. Again, that's not an aspiration I have. It's kind of a second worst job after CEO's job, because you have to run the board. You have to do a lot of governance work. You actually have to do a lot of work for that. You have to be in audit committees, and you have to make sure the books are in order. And so there's so much to do from that perspective. But I have served in those roles, and my current business, I serve as board chair because it's a young company. We're only 15 people, and the team needs the additional kind of support. But I can see myself rotating out at some point and just working on product and sales. So I just like to do a functional role because that's what excites me and that's what makes sense for my time.
CEO is a high status job as the world sees it, right? How did you never get caught up in status games?
Yeah, I mean, so first of all, I think the top job in any place is definitely the highest status job, but also is the highest liability job.
Correct.
And I take responsibility for what I do, and in businesses I've been involved in, I've taken a lot of responsibility. But the top job comes with direct liability, which leads to direct reporting to regulators, auditors. Like there's a lot of these sorts of things. So when I look at it as a high status position, that's true, but it comes with a high burden. And if you work on product, try to figure out how to solve the problems or come up with something really 10x better.
Yeah.
And the excitement of that, you're still liable and you still have responsibility for the product and making sure it's safe and making sure it functions as it should. But the excitement of that far outweighs any thinking about status. I mean, status is not really the driver.
Yeah.
For me, I mean, for many people, it works for them. So that's great. And you need people to serve as CEOs. So I hope many people care about this. But I think it takes away from what your own goals are, unless your goal is to have that status.
When did you first realize that your zone of genius is creative roles, whether that be contributing to product or whether that be contributing to sales? When was the first time you had that realization?
I was a managing partner, i.e. essentially CEO of a private equity business that I built. And just the amount of work I was doing dealing with LPs and then dealing with advisory boards for valuations and dealing with auditors and dealing with third-party valuations and dealing with reporting and dealing with legal. It just didn't seem like I was actually doing the investing. Right. And I was also CIO of the firm. So then, as soon as I could, I left the managing partner role and just stayed CIO.
Right.
Because in that job, you're investing capital and monitoring it and making it grow. And it was just not possible to enjoy the CIO role if you didn't have any time to do the actual work. So it came to me then. This was, I want to say 2006. I set up the firm in 2006.
Was this after your first job in venture capital in Hong Kong? Was this in UAE?
No, the firm was based in Pakistan, the private equity firm. In Hong Kong, I was an associate at a venture capital firm.
Can you share more about that?
Very far down the food chain. Yeah, I can't believe I'm going to say this on a podcast, but I like many associates in the first round of the internet cycle in the late 90s and very early 2000s. There was a lot of excitement. I was, one of many young people in investing capital or involved in investing capital. I was responsible for taking some really good decisions, investing in companies that became some of Asia's largest tech companies. I also was the associate, and this made me well known, who famously said to some leadership, some investors, and I won't name the company because I don't think it's appropriate, but in what is one of Asia's largest or global, one of the world's largest tech companies, I told the LPs, I was asked for an opinion, and I told them that the market is too early for them. Or rather, the world is not ready for B2B commerce. You can guess which Asian global corporation I'm speaking about. And the investors, to their credit, defended their position and said, no, we really think it's ready. And I said, well, we'll agree to disagree. This is a 20-minute conversation in front of a lot of people. And this company went on to be one of the most successful technology companies in the world. Like any young person, I had, many ideas. Some were obviously wrong. Yes, but it was an incredible experience. I worked with a group of people, or for a group of people that were real pioneers in VC in Asia. And this small firm that I started at became the second biggest VC firm in Asia.
Oh, wow.
At that time in the late 90s or very early
2000s. And that was when China's startup ecosystem was essentially coming up, right? Yeah. It was in its infancy, and it was, Baidu was very in the very early stages of getting funded, and all these companies were in the very early stages of getting funded. And so you got to experience basically the technological rise of China in a way. Yeah. You're at the heart of it. But being wrong about an analysis or judgment and failure, this is, I would say, like an essential part of life, business, in investing. How did that impact your future decision making? What did that teach you about how to evaluate companies or opportunities differently?
Yeah, so it was the rise of China, but also South Korea.
Oh, right. Okay.
Also Japan's current, that generation of tech. Some a little bit in Southeast Asia, not so much. But yes, so I had the great privilege of experiencing all of that in that cycle. Mistakes make you grow, right? This is not the only mistake I've made. I've made many. And I think what one learns from all of that is that every time you think about something, you should question whether you have a fixed idea and if that's what's driving you, or are you really thinking about something, without any biases. So that's, I guess, one of the things I've learned, and that came from a lot of those experiences in Asia.
Was it harder to think without biases early on in your career than later on? Or like, what's your mental model for completely, putting your priors on the side for that moment, for that decision, for those 10 minutes? It's very hard.
Yeah. So that's accurate. I think when I was starting out, I had plenty of biases, human being. Probably midway through my career, I'd gotten to a point based on experience, I guess, and some critical thinking, reflection, that my hypothesis in any piece of information has to be that it's untrue. That's my starting point.
So that's your standard operating procedure now?
Correct.
Okay.
And then I work to see if it's true.
You follow a scientific method. Okay.
Yeah, I assume it's false. And then I see if it's true. The process of proving something is true leads to the discovery of the weaknesses in getting to that truth. So I question everything. It's a sad life. It's a sad life, but I think that process works.
Right.
It's not the only process, and it's not the only good process. I don't even know if it's a good process. It just works for me. But it became especially true when I was in the world of foreign policy and working in government, where most information you receive is I don't know, has a deliberate bias, has a falsehood. There's usually some backdoor deal somewhere going on, and the information you're receiving is just designed to justify it or conceal it.
Right.
So assuming that things are untrue is actually the best place to start in that realm.
Right.
But in general, it works well.
In a way, media is the past tense.
Yes.
The past narrative.
Yes.
The things that already happened in real time, and you're
happened, managed, and then leaked or released in a way that the public at large needs to understand it.
That brings me to, well, in this era of peak mistrust, I would say, in institutions, especially media institutions, whether that's network television or big publications like the New York Times, or Fox, or whatever publication is out there. How do you curate your sources of information? I know you said you question everything, but what sources are there? Is it just, do you just read books? I know you're not on Twitter, you're not on LinkedIn, you're not on any social media platform. So do you just read books and meet people, and that's how you form your understanding of the world? Or is there something that's...
So I guess it's a multi-layered answer. So I'll pause for the answer, but let me tell you a short story first. I applied to go to a tech conference. I filled an application form for a tech conference, and in the form it had blanks for Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram,
TikTok.
I don't know about TikTok, but like 2 or 3 other things like that. Right. So I left it blank because I don't have any of those things. And I sent them the form. So they called me back. This is many years ago when people actually call you, because it was last minute and they had to get registration done. And they called and said, listen, you've left half the form blank. I said, that's because I don't have any of these things. And they said, the person on the phone said, this is a tech conference. Do you even exist? So I'm not on any of these.
Isn't it weird how closely linked it has become to your identity?
Yes. And
some of these are required fields.
Yes. And people also, I mean, it's close to your identity, but is it the real you? It's the best form of you for business purposes or work or whatever.
It's one version of you.
So it's a version of you that you're putting forward.
Yeah.
So there's so much bias in it, right? So anyway, I'm not on any of these. So information. So I do read the mainstream media.
And you don't even have your personal website.
Correct.
There's there's a Wikipedia page now, thankfully, but there's nothing else.
Yeah, I don't see why that's relevant. I've never kind of understood why it's relevant.
You've never needed it?
Yeah, I don't think so. I haven't seen the need.
Okay, well,
I mean, I'm not writing a book and need to promote the book or things like that. So I haven't seen the functional reason for that.
Right.
And the ego reason of having your website or things like that, I don't know. I don't understand it.
Would you ever write a book?
Yeah, I want to. There's been parts of my life, like in foreign policy, etc., where I think it would be interesting, but I think one, to be responsible, has to wait a long time until those things are, no longer going to impact anyone.
Yeah.
And then I probably have to seek permission. You're talking about governments and so on. So you need to, you need to make sure that things you write will not impact in a negative way in any way. But one day, if I find time, I'm not a natural writer, I think. So it sounds like a daunting effort to me. But yes, one day.
I think you would, from having spent some time with you, I think you would have very interesting things to share.
I mean, I've experienced some things that are worth sharing. I think that they're interesting. They would be. I think it would be good for people to know about that.
I think it would be like, how the CIA in the US, after I don't know what time horizon it is, but every 3 decades or so, they
declassify.
Yeah, they declassify information. So it's the Ali Siddiqui declassifier. Maybe the title of the book. That would be funny.
Coming back to your
coming back
question.
to media sources.
So I do read the mainstream media, but I take great care in reading mainstream media that's not just Western. So I will read, the usual suspects in mainstream media in the West, and then I will read the South China Morning Post, which is from Hong Kong, or the Nikkei in Japan.
Yeah.
So, excuse me, I try to put the same issue in front of two different observers and see what they both have to say about it. So that's one. But I don't spend that much time reading the news. But I read some local news. I live in London at now, so I read the local news because I want to know what's going on. But on big issues, I try to get perspective. My assumption is that general mainstream media, while there are some insightful things, broadly speaking, they are not reporting things that are insightful. So I do read a bunch of newsletters. Some would be considered very far right. The Mises Institute, I don't know if you know.
No.
It's libertarian. It's the Austrian School of Economics. It's their kind of one of the institutions coming out from that school of thought. And I read their newsletter, for example, quite diligently. They have views, many of which I agree with. This is on the economic thinking and thinking about liberty in general. This is further right than the most far right American think tanks.
But it's like they consider themselves a libertarian publication. I see. Interesting.
Yeah. So I read stuff like that.
What makes them? These labels, I feel like keep changing over time, right? So why do you think they would be considered a far right publication?
Yeah, from a far right in a libertarian sense.
I see. Right. Right.
Because they raise questions about the nature of patriotism. They raise questions about not just raise questions. They have clear views on the contract between a human being and the state. And
these are valid questions.
These are valid questions.
Yeah.
And if you read the newsletter, you get a perspective. And those are important perspectives, and the programming that we have from external, let's say, from groups of people or institutions externally that have made us believe a lot of things in life. It's not just the media. Institutions have programmed us.
Oh, yeah.
And
every institution.
Yes. Yeah. And, this sort of thinking of questioning every single fundamental idea of what it is to be in a state, what it is to be in a community, what that means for how you should behave, what that means for how other people should behave with you.
First principles thinking
on the nature of the relationship between a citizen and the state, between the obligation of the obligations of the citizen and the obligations of the state. I think these are very valid ideas. And I have to say, right-leaning people ask these questions much more than left-leaning people. Because
when did that change?
The left largely accepts, maybe it's not fair for me to say this, but the left seems set on its ideas. At least to me.
Right.
So I read a bunch of newsletters. I read some other far-right newsletters that are to do with immigration policy. I'm an immigrant to the UK.
Right.
I've been an immigrant to many countries. I've been to Hong Kong, the US, and so on. And
I'm going to an immigration debate in a week because I'm an immigrant in the US. So
there you go. And you have to know the other perspective, even if the perspective is against your position. So I read those. Some of them, I think, border on racism. But it's good to understand their point of view,
right,
and where they're coming from. In foreign policy, I read a bunch of the usual journals, but I also try to understand the opinions of the bad guys from a Western perspective. Russia, China. It's easy to, as you know, to read publications from think tanks in Western nations, not just the US, in the West in general. And assume that anyone else that has other values is bad. But you really have to examine the other side to understand where they're coming from. And I'm not an apologist for people that are countries and nations that are considered bad guys. Some actually are bad guys. Many are not. They have a position that's just different. And through a series of kind of events or institutional programming, because the position is against one side, it's been pushed that way. I'm sure if we were to go to those countries and look at their citizens and what they're reading and the programming they've received, they think everybody else is in the West is, evil. So, but it's important for me to look at both sides of it. And we can't really solve anything. Certainly we can't solve conflict between people and nations unless we try to understand both sides. So I spend a fair bit of time, when I have time to do this, I spend a fair bit of time trying to compare the two.
Do you not follow business news at all? Or
I mean, if I open the newspaper, I have a bunch of apps for the big publications. I do go to the business section, see what's going on. I pick up the FT once in a while and read it diligently end to end because it's a quality publication, I have to say, as far as business is concerned. The FT. Okay. So I'm in airports a lot. I always get the FT in an airport. I read the whole thing. So I'm interested in business news.
Right.
I don't hunt it, but you get so much business news anyway.
Right.
You get to hear the big deals that are happening, new innovations, etc. What the AI industry, who's doing what. So
what about what's specifically relevant to you at a point in time? Like, how would you go about that?
To learn?
Yeah, to learn.
So it's a combination of things. At different times, I've done different things. So I have a process. I will go to industry trade shows and conferences. Before the trade show, like anyone going to a trade show or a conference, you would diligence all the people that are coming, set up meetings ahead of time, and then see all those people and really engage with them to understand things. I frequently find myself going to academic institutions to learn the science of something. That's really helpful.
It's not to necessarily always complete a program or get a degree. You just spend a few months there trying to understand something and then
let's call it continuous learning. So there would be it would be a bunch of different things at different times, speaking with scientists or engineers or scientists or professors at universities trying to understand an issue. That's a really short thing. Might be a conversation, might be a few days of work. It may also be that I have gone back to university and done a few programs. So academic programs. So that's also been part of it. So going back to academic institutions to do a program, I find that if I need to go deep into something, I need to be tested on it, not just read.
An accountability mechanism of sorts.
Entirely an accountability mechanism. So I don't know if I've understood everything and done the learning until I'm tested. So twice, I've gone back to university, once as a degree student, once not as a degree student. Once was almost a year part-time, studying some math and some nanotechnology. And then more recently, it was a 2-year commitment part-time, which was applied technology. So it's mixed technology, but it focused on applied technology and energy. So it's a mix of different ways to go into academia to learn. So there's trade shows, conferences, and obviously meeting a lot of people from the industry. Then it's academia. Then it's working with suppliers of equipment, machinery, the big companies that make the equipment for that space, and understanding from them how the engineering is done. So a combination of a variety of things.
And you're also really good at cold mailing, cold emailing. And, you told me the story where you just would go on a website, fill out the contact form and ask to speak to a CEO.
Yeah.
Or where do you think you get that from? That just pure initiative, right? Or agency to make things happen.
I mean, you have to get something done.
Right.
You can't think about it too much. You have to go and do it.
Right.
I guess growing up, I was always exposed as to do sales.
I can reframe this, right? Because at the points in life you're describing, you were doing this. You were arguably a successful CEO or a business person, and if you, I guess, went through enough intros, you would have probably gotten a warm intro to these relevant people, right?
Yeah.
But you just don't wait for any of these things, right? I'm sure you did it very early on in your career, but you even later on in your career, you have the same, way of doing things. Just go do it yourself.
Yeah, I mean, so you're right, but I think different introductions require a different approach. So it's conscious. If I need to see somebody who is, a C-suite executive at a major global company, I will work the correct intro. Definitely, right? A warm intro is nothing better.
Right, goes a long way.
Yeah, and that person is usually otherwise quite busy, etc. So to get the attention, you need that. But if I need to get something done quickly, and I don't know, wit and charm will get you very far in life. so if I need to do something quickly, and I can write something convincing, if I understand what the other person will be looking for, then that's the way to do it. And it's quick. And also it's a test. Not in all situations, but for certain types of people one has to engage with. If they are responsive to that, you know how to deal with them going forward. If they're less responsive or not responsive to that, you know that as you engage with them in the process, you'll have to deal with them in a more formal, more serious, more structured way.
Right.
It's also an exercise in gathering information.
That is so true. Because that first line of messaging is all data and input, and are they just saying they're open to receiving messages, or is it just something they put out on the website, right?
In the movie Ronin, I don't know if you've seen Ronin. Ronin, the word, as you may know, means a samurai who doesn't have a master. I think the shogun, who's the master of the samurai, is no longer there. The samurai has all these skills, like fighting, etc., but has no direction, no leader. Anyway, it's a Robert De Niro movie.
I see.
And in that, a group of assassins is put together by a bunch of bad guys to steal a briefcase from other bad guys. Robert De Niro represents the American assassin.
I see.
There's also a British assassin, there's a German one, and they're all put together and they're preparing to steal this briefcase from a bunch of bad guys. The British assassin talks a lot and talks a big game about how many people he's killed, and he's this boisterous special forces, agent.
And he's also got the accent.
He's got the accent, but he brags, right? The German doesn't say anything, and Robert De Niro definitely does not engage. So the British guy keeps pushing Robert De Niro, and there's two scenes that are really interesting in the movie. One is he asks Robert De Niro, "Have you ever killed anyone?" After bragging of how many people he's killed, Robert De Niro looks at him and says, "I hurt someone's feelings once." So that's one that was interesting. But the relevant one is that Robert De Niro also wants to figure out what each assassin's worth in terms of how tough they are and etc. And the German guy is also not talking. So there's a cup. Robert De Niro. The cup is lying next to the German guy on a table, and Robert De Niro walks by and knocks the cup off. And the German guy, out of reflex, reaches out, grabs the cup before it falls to the ground and puts it back up. It's all reflex. But then he looks at Robert De Niro, and Robert De Niro looks at him. And Robert De Niro now knows the German guy is actually a tough guy, a dangerous guy.
Very well trained.
And very well trained. And the German guy now looks at him and realizes that, look, I've given up my position of, who I really am. So now I've forgotten where we were going with this.
No, we were talking about gathering knowledge.
Yes.
Gathering insights.
So when you write a cold email, you... the way the other person responds, like the German guy grabbing the cup, also gives you information. And
a no response also gives you information.
All of it. Absolutely.
That is... nobody's described it this way to me before. This is very interesting. So that's your process for... that's always been your process for, getting things done at a certain level. But as you rightly mentioned, for big corporation executives, CEOs, investors, their time, they're busier, so it's like hard to get their attention, or more like a lot of people are competing for their attention. And you're not on any social media to compete for attention. So what's the art of a warm intro?
A reference, someone that knows you, who can make the introduction. I think that's the best one. I mean, someone serious.
Right.
I mean, people will research you before the meeting, right? Or if they're very senior, the staff will research you. But someone serious getting a call from somebody else who they trust, saying that this is a person you should meet and he has something interesting to offer of value, and maybe you guys will even get along and get to know each other and might be interesting. Nothing beats that. So it's a reference call.
So it's almost like you do reference calls for hiring. So some people do it, some people don't. I don't think you did.
To hire other people?
Yeah. Did you ever do reference calls?
I mean, out of process, yes, people have to be reference checked because you need to make sure there's nothing, big and bad that you've missed.
Right.
But you can, sorry?
Do you believe in...
But you normally can figure out if someone's right pretty quickly. Yeah. I mean, the reference call has to be done because there is a process and you should complete the process.
I guess that part's there to figure out if, well, what is it there to figure out?
I mean, I don't know. Some people did something at work that, was, I don't know, investigated, but they were found innocent and that never shows up on the record, but you only get the information from a reference call. There's some risk with that, right? For your firm. So the things like that you want to figure out.
I guess there are a set of unacceptable things that are consensus that people probably agree on.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably like a very small number of things you could count on your hand.
Correct.
And majority of the things are very contextual and subjective and situation dependent and
yeah. So you want to avoid the reference call bias. That's negative. That's for things that probably you want in the person. That's probably what attracted you to that person in the first place to hire them.
Right.
So yeah, but you're only, for me, I'm only checking in a reference call if they violated something that's definitely in the wrong.
Right.
That carries risk for the organization. I mean, there's like you said, it's a handful of things, but you can't really hire people who have done things like that.
Right. But when you go on a university campus and recruit someone who's super young and their only experience is at least interacting with their class fellows, so how do you evaluate them? Is that pure judgment?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't done this for a while, recruiting on campuses, but I used to do it. You can, I mean, I search for people that have done many, many different things, first of all, some massive diversity of experience. And then I look for within that pool, people who are real hustlers, who will survive at all costs and who've done things that demonstrate that. Being class president might demonstrate leadership, but the person who, led his team out of some adverse circumstance. I'm not talking about a huge adverse circumstance that was dangerous, but let's say, I don't know, the team sport got canceled and this person went and convinced everybody that this match needs to take place, then created the circumstances of doing that. That sort of person is invaluable because A, they take initiative, B, they don't accept no for an answer. They have high, very tenacious.
Right.
They take action and deliver something that other people have said just can't be done. And when you're in your early 20s, typically there are a lot of rules around you. And these are people not willing to accept those rules.
Yep.
So you need people like that. You can usually spot them quite easily. They won't really fit a mold.
Yeah.
They won't really follow every process. There'll be something wrong in the resume.
Yeah.
There'll be some unexplainable things that you ask about and it's kind of a bit fumbled. But if you dig deep into those explanations, something will come out that makes this person stand out.
Yeah.
Because everybody else is kind of the same. They're the same product. The vast majority of the graduates are like the same product.
So it's probably easier to spot, but it's rare. They don't come as often.
Yeah. So first of all, you only need a few people.
Yeah. Good.
Okay.
So do you think most organizations are bloated?
Yes. I think there are, obviously maybe an 80-20 rule or a 90-10 rule.
Yeah.
A very small number of people.
Yeah.
A very small number of people deliver most of the value.
Yeah.
And most people do routine work.
Yeah.
Right. And once in a while, someone doing routine work will come up with something really interesting, but most of their careers are spent doing routine work,
Mm.
which is fine. You need those people too. I
Right.
mean, one can argue about an age of AI and maybe you don't need those people, but in general, you need everybody
Right.
to doing everything. And routine tasks are important for the organization to function. But you can spot those few rare people. And I think maybe it is rare, but maybe there are more of these rare people than we realize.
Mm.
Many of them don't get picked,
Mm.
don't get the opportunity.
Right.
So they're passed over.
Right.
And after being passed over a few times, if you don't have the right mentorship, leadership,
and
something,
yeah.
you stop to
They'll
behaving
lose that
that way.
spark.
You go back to the norm.
Right.
So I suspect there's more of those people than actually we identify.
That's
But still rare.
That's a fair assessment, because you stay in the system long enough, you're going to get conditioned. Yeah. It's the same sort of conditioning and programming that we were talking about through media.
Yeah.
It's very similar. So once you do find that person, how do you give them the right environment to thrive and evolve and succeed?
I don't think there's necessarily one answer. There's different answers for different people.
Right.
Different things make different
imagine.
people tick.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to understand that person. The broader things that are common is, they need someone to mentor them. They should shadow people. They should, again, in the organization, if they are one of those rare people, you as their supervisor need to make sure they get all sorts of training, all sorts of rotations. They're not fixed in one role. They should get a very broad exposure and then see where they excel. And, usually you can see where they would excel anyway. Some of these people, if they're hustlers, so to speak, they will be good at sales.
Right.
And they'll excel at sales.
Yeah.
And they probably will break records.
Yeah.
And they'll build a career out of that. But maybe that's not the best place for them.
Yeah.
Most people who are externally facing are good at sales, but they have other skills too. So you need to really understand the person and based on where they could really excel, give them that environment, but, cocoon them in kind of some combination of affection and training and knowledge transfer and make them understand that, they're really valued and you see them. To say that I see you, that's kind of superficial. It's become like norm. It's become something we say it all the time. It's in movies, etc. But to really see the person, talk to them about who they are, who you think they are, and let them react, because people know themselves, especially someone in their 20s out of college. These days you've thought about it a lot. So try to understand them.
I guess acknowledgement goes a long way. That's something one of your, I would say, apprentices I was talking to this morning brought up this exact thing. So it's interesting you brought it up, that acknowledgement goes a long way. And we were relating on that because, I was like, well, a mentor of mine, so probably the biggest gift I got from him was that he would value my opinion in private. And I would get to see the decision play out, even if I was wrong. And that's the most valuable thing ever. The organization doesn't need to know.
Yeah.
If you get to see it play out, you're improving your decision making over time, which is the most important thing, I guess, in business.
Yeah, and that relationship is important. I would also say that first of all, you're right, and second, I would say that when you as the junior person have a decision, you're pushing a decision, and the opposite happens, your supervisor, your mentor, or whatever you call that person, must explain to you why they took a different decision.
There needs to be a debrief.
Yeah. Because I think a lot of high energy people who have the potential to be wildly successful, the assumption is that, this decision is right. I'm pushing this. And if it doesn't happen that way, then if that's not discussed and they're not given great transparency as to what the reasons were why that wasn't the decision, their decision didn't get pushed, then they would be massively demotivated, much more than normal people. And you would lose them over time.
Right.
So I think there's a great responsibility in how you manage these people. They're usually quite difficult to manage, in my view. Yeah. And you as a supervisor have to work really hard to understand them, manage them, deal with their eccentricities. I think it's critical you understand them.
Yeah. You almost always have to wear the optimist hat and focus on what makes them the 100xer versus all the things that make you want to pull your hair out.
Yeah. And many of them will have some level of conflict with other people in organization. They will not be liked.
Yeah.
I mean, they can be a likable person, but for the actions they take, sometimes they're abrasive.
Yeah.
There'll be a lot of overhead as part of that. But, if you're going to, have something high performance, I don't know if a pet is a terrible example, but if I had a rabbit as a pet or had a cheetah, the cheetah is going to be really hard to manage, unsafe,
unpredictable.
Yeah. But that cheetah can run the fastest.
Yeah.
So, again, this is not a good analogy, but you see my point.
Yeah, I see your point. Like
calling someone subordinate to a pet is like really bad. Might get cancelled.
I guess what you're trying to communicate is if someone has bias for action, if somebody wants to, want to create momentum, right? They're going to disappoint a few people. They're not always going to follow processes. They're not always going to do it the right way. They're going to piss off a few people. And so, yes.
And they won't understand when they're kind of wrong.
Yeah, no.
Their decision is not going
you
forward.
Usually leave a whole trail behind you.
Correct.
So if somebody else is picking up.
Correct. Yeah. Correct. But to communicate with them when things don't go their way, that's critical. Deeply communicate.
Right.
Yeah.
Gives me food for thought. This is interesting. I thought we touched upon connected topics there, so it keep the conversation going. But again, related topic, ambition. Is ambition innate? Is it partly innate? Is it partly an outcome of your circumstances?
Who knows? I think that there's no formula for success. So many people have been successful in so many different ways, from so many different backgrounds, at so many different ages. So I don't know if there's a formula for any of these things. If you tell a child that he must be ambitious or she must be ambitious, and there's something great to achieve, does that help? Probably adds a lot of pressure to the child. If you create an environment around them that, somehow you're programming them to be ambitious, maybe it helps a little bit. I don't know. Maybe it doesn't help. So I don't know if there's a formula for this. But at some point, there's a personality type of an entrepreneur or a scientist, and that has probably one thing in common, which is that they like to solve problems. And sometimes those problems lead to a solution that's radically different from what's being done now, not marginally different. And I think some success around that makes you more ambitious. You see some success and you think, okay, I can do more.
So success compounds.
Something like that, yeah. So I think that's a fair way to say it.
Wins compound.
Yes. Yes.
So is it, if you see like a different young person, I guess the most important thing for them could be giving them a win, or creating let me rephrase that. Creating an environment for them where they can go for a win, and they might get some failures along the way.
Yeah, I don't know if I would create that environment necessarily for that young person to get a win. But I think if a young person is trying to do something, support them along the way so that you can help them win.
Right.
Rather than create the environment.
Right.
Just help them. Help is easy, right? You have a conversation with them. You try to tell them this might be a mistake. As you know, the cost of a mistake is generally far greater than the upside of a win. Yeah. You help someone avoid a mistake, that's huge. Yeah. So I think you just help them.
Yeah. Yeah. Where do you think you get your ambition from?
At different points in time, I think I would have given you different answers. But in general, I like to solve problems. That personality type of, hey, I don't really like things that are out of order. My brother observed about me that if there's an event and there are carpets on the floor at a large event hall. And one of the carpets, the end of the carpet is overturned. I'm usually the guy who goes and fixes that. And, when he said it, I thought back, and my whole life I've done that. I'm at an event, and if something is, weddings or whatever, I'm always fixing the carpets. Somehow, maybe it's some obsessive compulsive behavior, but I just don't like disorder. So, and I think a child could trip on it or over it, or something else could happen. So I think, my ambition generally comes out of trying to, thinking about the satisfaction of having successfully solved a problem. Like a puzzle. Everything's a puzzle, So there's some high satisfaction of like completing a puzzle.
So it
makes you want to do the next one.
Right.
Up a level.
Right. I guess which explains why you think you're not suited to the CEO role.
Yeah, because CEO doesn't have time for puzzles.
Yeah.
CEO has time for being on the podium and taking credit.
Right.
And all of that's the important things. But then how do you play the game?
But how would you explain taking over? Your father was very successful at what he did. He's a self-made man, built probably one of the top 10 largest businesses in the country, in Pakistan, where we're from. And, your former colleague in the call today mentioned, I'm not taking his name because I don't know if he would like to be named, but he mentioned you probably came in 1,000x the business or something of that order, right? And so how do you walk in it? We've seen a lot of family businesses where, succession doesn't really work out. And this is probably one of the only businesses that's not only grown in the last 25 years, but also where I was looking at, before we got dinner last night, I was just looking at the current board positions, the current executives across the group. There's nobody with the last name Siddiqui anywhere in the business. So I assume, I hadn't followed the business for a while, so I assume, you've done a really good job of succession planning, but also you did something right when you were taking over the business, and you had some ambition to grow it beyond even, how successful it was at the time.
Yeah, I mean, I think I had some high sense of responsibility towards making the business more successful under my watch. And the way to do that was not necessarily to lead it as CEO. I mean, I had some elements of leading the business, but was to find the best people to do it, to train them, to let them grow.
And you knew that at 26?
I knew that I didn't want to do it. And I knew that there are probably a lot of people that could do it. And as long as you build good systems and create an environment where people really want to be there, to work hard and to have great amount of affinity and loyalty to the organization, that it would work. And I had been through a lot of training since I was a child. My whole life was a series of experiments designed to make me learn how things are really.
Right. What can you share about that training?
When we moved to the house I grew up in, I was 10 years old, and there was a bank branch that offered children's accounts down the street. So my dad opened children's accounts for myself and my brother. He was 8, I was 10, and said that any money you save from your allowance or from jobs or whatever else, at the end of the year, I would double it. Now, we had no money. We were like 8 and 10 years old. But, that was kind of geometric growth of capital. Not that I understood that, but then I kind of, a 10-year-old can do some math, right? So, or some arithmetic. So I kind of figured out that this could really be big if I save money. So we started selling stuff, my brother and I. First, we saved money every week from our allowances, consuming one less Coca-Cola or whatever else to save it. And then And then we sold things like trash. We sold trash, like newspapers and magazines to like recyclers. And
At
like
10.
small, like really small,
In
like a
Karachi.
carton worth. Yeah, a carton's worth a month. And I would get like almost nothing for it, but it was money. So,
Right.
and then I had a Commodore 64, which is an old world computer from that era. And I figured out that I can rent a stall at like festivals. And I can compete against arcade games. I had a little joystick and I would run a game on the computer. This is the late 80s. So came on the computer next to where the arcade was in the festival area and then charge people less money than what the arcade was charging. And I would make a profit and I would save that money. It was like, I would make $2 in a day. And after paying all my costs and so on.
Right.
But I would save money, and at the end of the first year, my dad doubled it. At the end of the second year, he doubled it when I was there. And then he kind of forgot about it and we forgot about it, but I had learned to save. And that was the experiment that he designed, I suppose.
Right.
Or I think I was 11 or 12 and we were on holiday in Japan. And, I was 12 or 11, my brother was 9. The most exciting thing about that trip was that we bought ninja outfits and we dressed up as ninjas everywhere. But more interestingly, some days my parents would put us on an industrial tour bus without the parents, an 11 and 9-year-old on an industrial tour bus at 7 a.m. And we would go visit industrial companies, a truck company, Isuzu, to see how truck bodies are made, a brewery to see how beer is made. And, so my whole life, there were these experiences that were designed to make me understand how the world works, to think commercially, to understand compounding, geometric progression, things like that, without my actually knowing that that was what's going on. So yeah, by the time I was 26, these basic ideas like compounding, and you and I were speaking about compounding. It's not just money compounding; it's relationships compounding, i.e., network and knowledge, and so many things. I think those ideas were quite clear in my head, and therefore I also thought about what I wanted to spend my time on versus not, and hiring people and training people seemed to be a really good use of my time. Because a lot of things I didn't want to do that burden would be taken by them.
Hiring and training is a lot of work in itself.
Yeah.
That is, even if you don't take the CEO role, that is a lot of work.
Yeah.
Hiring and training.
Yeah. And there's disappointments along the way. Some people don't rise to the challenge.
Yeah.
You identify somebody who you look at somebody that everybody else thinks has real potential.
Right.
You give them a chance and they blow it in the most disappointing way by demonstrating that they're not that hard a worker.
Yeah.
And then you give them a second chance because everybody convinces you that no, you're missing something. This person really has something special, and they blow it a second time. That happens too.
Yeah.
But
it is
totally
very disappointing.
Very disappointing.
Yeah.
But more than half the time, you find people that really rise to the challenge, and there's a great amount of satisfaction in seeing them grow.
So
sometimes do things better than you.
I agree. So what can you think of? Or another fascinating part is that a lot of people at the organizations you've built have stayed with you for a very long time, and 20 years, 25 years, I guess, like most of them have been there for a very long time.
Yeah.
How do you build a culture where people don't want to leave? That's like the dream culture. I want to learn the secret sauce. Like, how do you build that culture?
Yeah.
I guess a lot of entrepreneurs are, that as they figure, most of the CEO entrepreneurs I talk to or founders I talk to think culture is top of mind. Everybody thinks about culture, and you've figured something out. So
so as we know, priorities for human beings shift over time. So and we've all read, say that the most successful people are ones that are the most adaptable, the most flexible. Well, as the supervisor or the employer, you have to be flexible also. So, saying that, the most successful people in the organization are the ones that are most adaptable, that's fine. But then you yourself have to be very adaptable.
Right.
So you have to respond to, these high performance people, then their needs and desires and drivers change, and you have to respond to that. So if someone in the team wants to go and be an entrepreneur, you should welcome that. You should give them the flexibility. We've done this in many cases, that they should.
How do you do that? Can you share some specific?
Yeah, if someone wants to leave and they come to you, have a conversation that, look, it's been great and I've been here so long and it's been the greatest thing, but I really want to go do something on my own, or I want to leave. You ask the question, why do you want to leave? And they say, well, it's time for me to be an entrepreneur. And you ask all the questions you need to understand why they want to do it, what they want to do and everything. And then you say, just do it here. If you don't want the firm to have equity in it, that's fine too. Take some space. Anywhere you go, you'll get some space, right? You'll need a space. You know everyone here. And work out of here. And of course, if you need to raise capital, the firm would want to support that. But also, if you don't, that's fine. And if someone wants to move to a different country, I mean, I've had all these situations. Someone came and said, I want to quit, and it's personal circumstances. I want to move to this other country.
So these are employees in Pakistan and they want to move to another country.
Yeah.
And you're open to it. You're like, okay, yeah.
Yeah. Or in some other country and they want to move another country for personal reasons. We're like, fine, what does that have to do with leaving the firm? You want to move to a different country? Like, well, we don't have an office there. There's no job there. We're like, fine, just move to 100% work from home. We don't really have a work from home culture, but if someone comes up with that, as long as you can do that, or we change the role somewhat to do that, and that's fine. Just go do that for a few years or many years, or
until you have to figure it out.
Exactly. So, I mean, the cost of losing someone who is familiar with the organization, who has the internal network, who has the institutional memory, for all the work that they've done in the firm's growth, the cost of losing that is incredibly high. I mean, I could say that, if someone's leaving the firm at a senior level, make them a member of the advisory board. But that's kind of a distant thing to do. Instead, say, just don't leave. Now, there's a cost to it, of course, and one has to be responsible about costs. But senior people will generally, senior doesn't mean old. It means someone doing a job that's important.
I get it.
Well, generally be people who will, return much more than that cost anyway. Many times over, probably. They'll go, they know the firm, they'll find some opportunity, link, sale, they'll figure it out. But if the whole firm knows that this is the firm's DNA, that if you want to go do something of your own, or if you want to move countries for personal reasons, or you want to go study and come back, that builds a cocoon where everyone feels safe and says, whatever I want to do next, like, this family will help me.
I'm
this
welcome to do
all
it
together on this. So that's I think quite important. There are also times when people do leave, right? And frankly, sometimes people will go to a competitor. Maybe they go to a competitor not necessarily because the competitor is paying a lot more, because that's something you can compete with and beat. But they're going to the competitor because the competitor is 5 times your size. And they're getting the opportunity and they're getting the CEO position, which is just not available because there's this competent CEO in place and they're one of the number 2 people. And then, I usually have a conversation. It's happened a few times. And I usually say, okay, it's been such a great time working with you and I'm going to miss you. But the way I see it is you're being seconded to the competition. And in a few years, once you've figured out that company, we're going to make you an offer to come back. And it's our responsibility as a firm to make an offer that you can't refuse. It's got to be that attractive. So that's our responsibility. But as far as we're concerned, you're being seconded to the competition. In fact, I met an executive last month at a wedding. I ran into him who had worked with me for some years. Not a very long time, but 5, 6 years. And then now is in exactly this position. He runs a competitor to what he was doing. And that competitor is many times the size of the business that he was running. And I had this conversation with him that he would be seconded. And I was introducing him to somebody else who was walking with me, who I was chatting with. And I said, this is my former colleague, XYZ, who's currently seconded as CEO of this firm, our competitor. And this person I was walking with was very puzzled. And this executive started laughing. And then I winked at him and he winked back. It was funny. But the point is that, really valuable people that can deliver are such a rare commodity that you have to, be ready to bend many of the rules, not all, but many of the rules. So, many firms have these rules that, if someone leaves us, we shouldn't hire them back, even if they're valuable, because it sends a wrong message to everybody else that they can leave and come back.
Right.
But like these rules are designed so you lose the person. So does that rule really need to be followed?
Yeah. If the person brings value, then who cares? Yeah. So interesting. That's given me things to think about. I have an example that I'll share on camera. I was when I was in Pakistan, I was working with, I think I told you, Pervez. He was my boss. I was having a great time. It was an incredible apprenticeship. I think 3 months with them felt like 3 years. It was just great, learning all the time. And that's when I met the team at Draper. And within a few months, I got an offer to start working remotely. But I was having a great time learning, in my day job, but the night job was offering a lot more money. And I turned down more offers in the country who were offering a lot more money, because I thought, like, just the experience of having the freedom to do so many projects and across so many different sectors is so great. Like, why would I want to leave that? This is awesome. But then I did come up with the scenario. I was like, what if I could, with my additional salary, hire like an assistant in my day job, and the company doesn't have to pay for it. They just have to agree. And, and keep and do my night job. But I was like, but do I really want, I'd be working 17 hours a day. Do I really want to do that? So I went to him and I just discussed the entire scenario, and he ended up suggesting it first. He's like, so what are you doing after 7 p.m.? Like, not much. Dinner. He's like, well, then Pacific hours, you can probably work after 7 p.m. And he's like, well, how much will you be making there? And I told him how much. And he's like, do you want to hire an assistant? Do you have somebody in mind? And I'm like, I actually do. I've been training someone, an intern over the last few months. He's like, yeah, so just hire them. And I'm like, and I can come in the morning whenever I want. Like, yeah, like just come in whenever you want, just show up for the important meetings. And this is awesome. Like, you get the best of both. Yeah. And so I experienced that exception being made, which is how I realized that does work. It doesn't work for long, but it does work. Yeah.
That's your observation is correct. Yeah. These things, the distance, etc., make it harder. And over time, unless you can develop some sort of closeness, which is quite rare to do, they frequently die a natural death. But then that person, in many cases, that those people have a decision and then they kind of think and doesn't work out or something. So there's always an easy channel back if the firm has been supportive.
Right. So it's like a 50-50 situation where maybe the thing they're experimenting with works out. And, that's great for them. And, they'll, because of their success in that, they'll add value to their organization for whatever additional time they end up spending in the organization. But if it doesn't work out, then they never left in the first place. So they're there. Yeah. It's an easy, sort of transition back into the way things were. Yeah. Okay. We talked about, providing, the different people you find that you can nurture, providing them a path, mentorship, sort of a cocoon, as you describe it, in the organization to experiment, fail, grow. I'm curious who are those people for you? Who are your mentors in your formative years? And you also started a business at a very young age. You started selling at 10 years of age, trying to save, and I guess that was your first exposure to compounding. But you mentioned at dinner last night that at 15 was when you really started your first business and, made a ungodly sum of money in the 90s.
That context.
In that context,
tens of thousands of dollars in that context.
So sorry, in that context, yeah. For clarification, it wasn't like billions or something. It was just tens of thousands of dollars at 15 in Pakistan in the 90s is, you know, you can retire pretty much for the next 5 years or something. So did you have mentors, or were you just
I mean, so my dad was a great example for me, but also a mentor.
Was he active or was he more passive in his approach?
As I mentioned, he had all these, both parents of mine had all these situations they created for us to learn. So that part was definitely active. In terms of mentorship, one would have to go to him to ask, I need help with this, or I need to understand this, or whatever, and he was always available. So that was there. So beyond my mother also a mentor in a different way, not in a business sense so much, but I mean, she's an academic, she's a university professor, so not a business person, but she has very clear views on right and wrong and what's just and what's not. And, you know, the mentorship, of course, is not just, the business mentorship or kind of commercial mentorship. It's the mentorship of your personality. So much of my personality comes from my mother.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So parents aside, my first boss when I used to work in Hong Kong, my boss's boss, but the guy who
what
hired
parts
me,
of your personality? Sorry to expand on that.
Yeah, I'm driven deeply by justice, by things that are fair or unfair, things that are fair to me. You know, if something is fair to me, I deserve it. You know, there's a great scene at the end of Kill Bill 1 where, I know you don't watch many movies, but where the character played by Uma Thurman, as you can tell, I watch a lot of movies.
Yes.
The character played by Uma Thurman was the subject of an assassination attempt. She was an assassin, but she quit. So the other assassins on Bill's assassin group decided to kill. Bill put a kill order on her, so she's now got to be killed. At her wedding, when she's pregnant, they try to kill her. They kill her husband. She survives, is in a coma, comes out, decides to take revenge and starts killing the assassins. At the end of part 1 of Kill Bill, she has already killed some of the assassins and she's coming for Bill, the head of the assassins who ordered her killing, but failed. And Bill says the following at the end. He says, they attacked her in her wedding dress, killing her husband. I think she may have been pregnant in the movie and she lost the baby. Like, it was a horrific thing. So she's taking revenge. And Bill says at the end of the movie, he says, that woman deserves her revenge. And then he says, and we deserve to die. Now, he has no intention of dying. He wants to kill her.
But he understands.
Yeah, there's like justice
of course.
in Bill's kind of view that, you know, this is all fair.
Yeah.
So I think I'm driven quite deeply by that. I mean, even as a kid, if I did something wrong, I thought it was fair for me to be punished. And if I was not punished, I would explain to my parents that, you know, maybe they're not doing the best parenting. You know, like, I mean, you've got to discipline me. This is wrong. You know, I know you love me, but like, you've got to take action here. So literally, I was like this weird child.
Okay. Do you realize what I just did?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's got to be consequences. So I really was like that.
This cannot continue.
Yeah, exactly. You know, love, very good, but discipline, extremely important. Accountability, extremely, please, now you need to take action. So I think those parts of my personality come from my mother. Yeah.
Oh, fascinating.
Yeah. And then my first boss, in Hong Kong, he was a great influence on me. I mean, there have been other people that have, you know, supervised me that I found.
What did you learn from your first boss?
Probably that, you know, rules are frequently made to be broken. Like in a good way.
Right.
In a good way. Like, you know, challenge. Challenge.
It goes back to, I think, like earlier we talked about first principles thinking and being able to question things. And questioning the status quo. Otherwise, how would you solve problems if you just accepted? How would we see any change in the world if we kept accepting the way things were?
Yeah. Yeah, he walked by my desk. We had an open office, so I had just a desk. He walked by my office one day, and he said to me, is it right to judge someone by their looks? And I said, well, obviously not. But like there would be these things. He would like ask me questions that some had obviously one way correct answers. Right. Some were profound. The company was interviewed by a major magazine, and they'd given us the choice of being on the cover, the photo of the key executives on the cover or on the inside pages. And he asked me, should we be on the cover or the inside pages? Now I'm the guy who's not on any social media or whatever. So, I thought, let's just be low key about it. So, I was involved. I was quite junior, but I was involved in a lot of key decision making. I think I said something like, the bigger they are, the harder they fall. Like, we're a young company, we're getting ahead, and we'll be the cover of a major magazine. Then other people will be jealous, the competitors and everything. Why put ourselves out there this way, right? Right. Other people have other opinions. But the point is, he taught me that I had a voice as long as I had a formed opinion to share. He taught me that, all these rules, some of them just don't make any sense. The constraints we put on ourselves. He also is somebody who went in his late 40s, went back to university, retrained in technical subjects, and has built a very successful, one of the most successful quantum computing companies in the world now. Oh, wow. And he came from finance. So watching him do that, he no longer was, obviously working with me. I wasn't working with him. I worked for him for about 4 years, but watching him and kind of redefine his life and do something completely different, that's inspirational. So mentorship is also by example. Someone doesn't have to, like, as you know, tell you what you should be doing or what's right, what's wrong. But by example, also, he's a great mentor.
What is the rule or a set of rules you have questioned recently in the last maybe 2 years?
I don't think I can speak about the last 2 years, but in general,
I guess.
I've always had a hard time accepting rules.
Any?
Yeah, I think rules are necessary because, the world is a large number of people and we need some order. But if you're trying to do something really great, you're trying to solve something complicated. You're trying to achieve a great result.
Our context here is entrepreneurship, right? So we're talking in the context of entrepreneurship.
Then, without breaking any laws, everything else is on the table to be met. That's what it is. Yeah. These are constraints. Yeah. You can't do it because, this is the rule. This is just too much.
Self-made, human-made constraints.
Yeah, I always tell people, like, when we're trying to do something and then they say we can't do it because of this, I'm like, okay, assume that wasn't the problem. How would you do it? And like, really, that's not the problem. At the end of the process of finding the answer, we will end up with many different constraints. This will just be one of them. We'll have to solve them all. Yeah. So I think people have a hard time stepping out of that because they've been told it can't be done this way because of this reason. So I think I've never been good with rules, but I accept and I need order. So, it's important, but in the context of entrepreneurship, especially when you're, probably not generally in the context of entrepreneurship, but in the context of doing something really it's a big change, then, you can't have the constraints. You still shouldn't. Some constraints are fine for safety and so on, but in general, there's too many of them.
If you're going for a step function, change in whatever you're going to do with something radically different, you probably can't do it with the same set of rules that you're operating under. You mentioned the other thing that it's, as you were getting profiled for a magazine, your initial thought was, oh, well, if you get too much attention, then people would get jealous and people would try to take you down, and why put yourself in that position? The other side of this is, in business, you also need distribution. How do you choose what matters more?
Yeah, so the context is our firm was a venture capital firm, and distribution was relevant because we need to raise capital and also attract good companies that would accept our capital, but to raise capital mostly. And I think if we were a tech company with a consumer product, we would have wanted to be on the cover because you want the most amount of attention. But in the context of a VC firm, we were an upstart that went from 0 to the second biggest firm by AUM, I think in a period of 2 years or 2.5 years, second biggest VC firm in Asia at that time in 2.5 years.
Was Goldman Sachs the biggest?
No, there was a firm it was an independent firm called Asia Tech, and we were called Tech Pacific, but they were the biggest, Asia Tech. It just seemed like we were upstarts, and I could sense that. I would go to industry conferences or be on a panel speaking at a conference or whatever, and I could sense that people were skeptical, like who are these new guys? And there are not many techies. Many of them are finance people. Yeah, not many of them understand deep tech. Right. And and they're here, and they also made investment in a semiconductor company. What do they know about semiconductors? Right. Some of the criticisms are valid, right? So if you have that out there and you're pushing yourself, that's not really the attention you need in that context. Right. But if you had a consumer product, you want to be in the front of everything, of course. Right. So so it's different contexts.
Venture has changed, especially, I guess, in the US, but probably everywhere. It's become more of a very flashy, media first, distribution first sort of a business. Maybe part of it is fundraising, part of it is winning competitive deals and competing, part of it is being mindshare, being in front of everyone. In this US especially, like a lot of venture firms have become media first in their own way. What do you make of that?
I mean, I'm not part of the industry, so to speak, so I don't know if I'm qualified at all to make it. I suspect the advantage of being front and center from a media perspective is really big. That advantage is big because there are a handful of real marquee companies and ones that will become that, and there's too much capital chasing them. So to really convince the great entrepreneurs, or either they have a track record and that's why they're great, they're on their second or third company, or ones that clearly have a product that is quite special, to convince them to take capital from one firm versus the other, the brand of the firm and the public facing image matters. So it probably helps.
How would you define brand?
Yeah, if I were raising capital, the brand test I would try to follow is whether this firm has a reputation of providing the right amount of attention and caring and being friendly, rather than just trying to make a buck.
It's quality of customer service, in a way.
Yeah. Is an investee company the customer or the LP the customer? Probably the LP is the customer. So the investee, I don't know. It's hard to say, but let's say after sales service in general, not customer service, but just after sales service in general, whether it's to the investor or the company. But to the company for sure.
It's the service you receive is what you care about.
Yeah.
Ultimately, that is your brand. That is your reputation.
Yeah. If the brand is a firm made a lot of money, that's less attractive to me because a very large number of firms have made a lot of money.
Right.
I mean, so for example, if I were raising capital and Berkshire Hathaway came to me and Warren Buffett was still CEO, I would want their capital.
Right.
Because that brand of being gentle, being thoughtful, really spending time on each investment, investing in really small companies and gigantic companies because they're both great businesses.
Holding them for the long haul.
Holding for the long haul. That brand is valuable.
Right.
If the brand was, here's a very successful VC firm and here's another very successful VC firm, I would test for who's better for the investees, assuming both were equal in terms of the network effect. If I was building an AI company and both had an equal number of high quality AI investments, that were good for my network or customer base, or let's assume all that's the same.
Right.
I would always test for, is the brand that these are good people to work with? You know?
What insight have you had about fundraising over the years that you'd like to share?
It's hard. It's not an insight. It's just, it is.
No matter, I guess, who you are, it's like hard.
It's hard.
It's hard. Like for a new initiative, it's just hard.
Yeah. Because, you go in as the entrepreneur convinced on your product and on your strategy and your business. And there are a lot of skeptical questions, many of them well thought out. Yeah. If I was in their place, I'd ask the same questions. And it's kind of frustrating. And it takes some bit of time and legal work and negotiation, and whether it's venture capital or institutional capital in some other form. So it's hard. It's not an insight. It's just that you have to be patient and really hardworking and persevere to go through fundraising, debt or equity. Same, for young tech companies,
Is a leading question there I have is whether it's fundraising or sales, I feel like these are decisions driven by I guess emotions have a lot to do with how these decisions get made, and so they're people at the end of the day, and so the quality of the relationship really matters. And you said patience is probably an important virtue if you're going on the road to fundraise or to close a big contract, right? Big contracts also take upwards of 9 months to close, depending on the size of the contract. What over dinner you were telling me about some of the people you've known from, I guess, 90s when you were doing internships, right? Who you got to spend some time with, and full circle you got to interact with them in your different roles in life, many years later. So over that time, what have you just learned about how relationships function, business or personal, and how do you navigate, right? Like, as you go out, you're also, looking after your business, and it is a transaction, but also there's a human on the other side, and, they're looking to do business with another person and not out there for just another, most people I would guess are not out there for just another transaction.
Yeah. For me, relationships, whether they're business or not, or personal or over some other commonality, they have to be genuine. So, I don't really get to know somebody because it's the business. I need them for business.
Right.
If I need somebody for business, it's transactional. Both parties gain something from it. Even if I'm selling the product, the customer should gain something from that. That to me doesn't really define a relationship.
Yeah.
A relationship to me is something that is genuine. You found some commonality of interest or experience or worldview, and you've engaged, found the other person to be really interesting, and kept up with them and gotten to know them.
Yeah.
And then many times that will really help you in business, because someone you have a relationship with will help you. Make an introduction or give you advice. But the basis of that is something very real and genuine. You like to spend time with this person.
It is
you want to get to know them better. You experience life in a better way because of them. And so for me, it's really that. And with that is some level of gratitude. I think you have to have gratitude for what you get in life, and what you get out of somebody else is a relationship. You have to express that gratitude. You gain, if you gain from that, you have to really care about that and tell them, but also do something to demonstrate that.
Right. That's fair. So it has to be rooted in authenticity and whether you actually enjoy having a conversation or spending time together, and then unless you're delivering a product to a customer, anything outside of that is, pretty much that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is maybe on a conversational level, simple to understand, harder to practice.
it's an investment in time, which is precious.
Which is an investment in time, which is, yeah.
So as you get older, so I think about this, and there's people that I've met when I've become older, and when I build a relationship with somebody new, I tell them that, this is quite special to me, because in adulthood or late adulthood, it's hard to build a relationship. Because the commonality of interests, many of those interests have passed.
Right.
People you went to school with, people you went to college with, people who were on the desk next to you in your first job, and you went out with at night. All of those experiences have gone. So now when you meet somebody, you're trying to build that relationship without any of that legacy of coincidental, kind of experience or shared experience. And now you're just building on the basis of what you've just experienced with them now, without any of that legacy. And that's pretty special if you get along. So new relationships in adulthood, I always acknowledge to the person that I'm really grateful for this, that we get along and we're talking and because
it's so rare.
It's rare.
Unless you've had a shared experience.
Correct.
I guess this is where some of these memberships come in handy, because they give you experiences. I guess that's the country club membership model is like very interesting, because that's what it gives you. It gives you shared experiences. And
networks in general give you shared experience.
Shared experiences.
I think country club is an example, but I would say broadly speaking, networks around your interests. Right. If your interest is technology and you're in technology network, you already will meet through people through that network where you're very likely to have some sort of shared experience, because you're both in the same field.
Or a shared point of view, or something that will help you connect better.
Exactly. Exactly. If you're far right, go to a far right conference. You'll make friends.
What is like a personal, I guess, model you've developed to maintain relationships over time? It's as you meet, I'm sure you've met hundreds of or thousands of people over, over this time. Or do you just not? I mean, you don't have a LinkedIn, which is most people's CRM. I don't know if you have a CRM. Maybe it's just your phone or email, right? But is there different people have their own unique ways, and love to learn how you.
Yeah, so I travel the world a lot, and my relationships are all over the world, and I keep sending notes to my executive assistant to say, next time I'm in so and so place, remind me to see this person, and actually goes on to my schedule. So, and if I'm going to that city, she makes sure that, it's flagged. So I see people in person quite a bit.
I see.
I don't really call people to stay in touch that way because there's no time. Yeah, there's like too much else
going
on.
That doesn't really work.
Yeah, exactly.
That one in-person connection once in 6 months is way better than that,
Exactly. So because I travel a lot, I kind of, make that happen. And it's quite a selfish experience. I'm not trying to keep the relationship up. The relationship is something I enjoy. So I'm actually benefiting myself. It's entirely selfish.
Self-serving.
Yeah, it's entirely self-serving. It's like, this person's interesting. We get along. We have a relationship. And I'm visiting their city, or I'm passing by somewhere close to there might be, or I'm in a major city where people travel to New York, London, So I say, hey, I'm in London. I know you come, I'm in New York. I know you come in and out. Or, your relative is at NYU and you're coming in and out. Are you there these days? Right. And sometimes it works out. So I'm doing it because I enjoy it. I'm not doing it to keep up the relationship. That's kind of a byproduct.
Right. And so that like, I guess, naturally creates a filter, and and also that naturally creates a short list of the people you keep up with.
Correct.
I guess.
So on short list, we'll use the word short.
I see.
Not as a short list, but this is going to sound weird, but I have a process of shorting people.
You mentioned.
Right. So many people, are not good for you. They will, maybe suck your energy. Maybe that's the easiest way to say it, although that's kind of a fluid, weird thing to say. But if I find that, keeping up a relationship with the person takes away my energy, I would short them like one would short a stock.
Mm.
Like, okay, I don't need to own this relationship.
Yeah.
And conversely, the relationships I maintain are ones that add to my energy.
Mm-hmm.
Or we collectively grow our energy together. We feel happier. We learn from each other. We do things that we're both interested in. Or we talk about a subject that, we both have, points of view on that don't have to agree, but like it's something we're interested in.
Mm.
And that adds to your energy. And I'm using the word energy, but you know what I mean? It's your overall kind of life benefit.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to figure out quickly who you want to short in life.
Yeah.
And not engage with.
Yeah.
Without being rude about it.
Right.
It's not coming from an arrogant perspective.
No.
That person may have a lot of value.
Yeah.
But, may not have the same interest, the same level of engagement, the same desire that you do.
Yeah.
So.
And also two unique people will just connect on very different things. And you won't always get along. That's just very natural.
Correct.
It either happens or it doesn't. It's very binary. I think we were talking about this over dinner. This is very binary.
Yeah.
And that's just how it is. And I guess most people take it too personally. And
Yeah. I mean, in business, you often come across people that only are looking for some advantage for themselves.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's fine. I kind of respect that. But if that's the only thing that person has to engage with me on, then, that lowers my energy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
If it's a business conversation, let's not have a relationship. Let's just do some business.
Yeah.
We both see value, one person selling to the other or vice versa or something else.
Yeah.
And let's just do that. But that doesn't mean that, we need to spend time beyond that. If the conversation is really going to be about how can, you benefit, and that's it every time. So you need to figure out who those people are and, not engage with them, short them.
Yeah. 6-minute conversations. Those are the 6-minute conversations.
6 is too long.
The others are the 2-3 minute conversations I saw you and you're done.
Exactly.
When choosing to build a product or a business, does the network come first, or does the insight or secret sauce come first? What's more important?
The insight.
The insight.
Yeah, I mean, in the end, a product or a service has to be beneficial. The network is incredibly useful,
right?
Sometimes even necessary. But if you have the network and you try to build a product what the network needs,
right?
I don't think that's the best way to do it. I mean, it may work sometimes, but that's not the best way to do it.
It's just like not true to you, and you don't care about it, or
you're approaching it just as a business opportunity,
right?
But if you're truly making something better that comes from an insight, becomes a product or a service. If you have the network, that's a bonus.
Right.
If you don't have it, it's your responsibility as the entrepreneur to go and develop the network.
Right.
But you have to have the insight or the secret.
Of course.
I mean, I don't know if insight or secret sauce are the words I would use, but you have to have the product or service or the insight into what you need to change.
Yeah, what you need to change. What can you make 10x better? What can you make radically different?
Yeah.
What about the cases where people would look within their networks? You've lived your life very differently, right? You would develop an interest, and then for half a decade, you would find yourself on roadshows and going to conferences, go deep on the subject, and even go spend some time in academia if you have to, and just develop this deep knowledge. But what if, there are individuals where you have an existing network and it's opportunistic, but you can so it's not necessary that you can figure out a way to develop a 10x product within that existing network. You have that existing network, you can figure out a way to develop or serve a 10x product within that network, or whatever, just curated to that network. Is that a good way to think about doing business, or just?
I mean, I find it hard if you're doing something innovative.
Yeah.
I mean, if you were building a business, providing a basic service, I don't know, it's again probably not a good example, but if you were providing cleaning services, then everyone has an office, they need a cleaning service. And if you have a large network with people with offices, you can probably build a great business doing cleaning services. You can build a business 10x the size possibly of a normal cleaning service. but you can't build a business that's 10 times more innovative. To do that, you have to really focus on the product or the service, which comes from the inside.
Yeah.
And then if it's really 10 times better and you demonstrate it, do you need the network so much? People should want it. Otherwise, you may have a failure in selling it. That's a different matter. But the product really is 10x as good.
Right.
People will see it.
Right. Huh. Interesting. So it might take you longer, but you would be able to do it on your own.
I mean, you say do it without the network.
Do it without the network in the sense.
Yes, a network is always helpful.
Right.
And a network of one type can help you get to the right customer who's not in the network.
Right.
So all that's very useful.
Right.
But I think innovative businesses need the right product or service.
Right.
Otherwise, there's really no point. I mean, it's very hard to be successful doing it just with the network.
Right.
If you go to the network and you ask, what is your real need? How can that need be served 10 times better? I think you're already in the wrong place. You should know what it is magical about what you're doing.
Yeah. It sounds like a consulting company. They are professional relationship managers and network managers. Yeah. That's what it sounds like. So I guess we've covered this idea of building a radically different idea, and I've had 2 or 3 guests on the show who've described it in different ways. Christopher have you read this book, Play Bigger? No. Christopher Lockhead is this author of the book. He's a friend. He invented this concept of category design, and also published probably 14 other books and talks a lot about it. And he also published a research in Harvard Business Review on how 76% of the market value ends up getting captured by the market leader.
Okay.
And then he gives an example of, so essentially the same concept of a monopoly. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you think of business building in the same way, that if that product is, radically different, it will have monopolistic characteristics essentially. Have you experienced that have you sort of subscribed to that sort of framework unknowingly? I mean, people have come up with frameworks around it, but
did he mean for software or
any category? For example, you would compare the number 1 rental car company. I don't know what it is currently in the US, but maybe if it's enterprise, you would compare it against Hertz, and the difference between number 1 and 2 is really big, right? And if it's smartphones in the US, you would compare Apple, iPhone versus the rest, and the difference is really big between number 1 and 2. So in that sense, right? Between the category leader, and it's not necessarily the category leader invented the thing.
Yeah.
Apple did not invent the smartphone, right? Yeah. Or the enterprise probably did not come up with the rental car, solution or service. Yeah. So it's like his point is that they just find a way to position themselves really, really well and make the 10x better product, obviously.
Yeah, I don't know, because I don't know this thesis. Right. I would say that without having read the book, so it's hard for me to comment, but I would ask the question, how much do the capital markets and capital providers have to do with this? Hertz and Enterprise provide essentially the same product, car rental. Yeah. And if one is, significantly larger than the other, that may also have to do with one being backed by the right financial backers who helped it acquire a lot of competitors. I just don't know.
Yeah.
I will say that in CapEx heavy businesses, I've built some manufacturing businesses. Yeah. To gain market share, you need to build bigger factories and have more machines and more workers. But you need to build bigger factories, which takes time. In batteries, CATL is the world leader, the Chinese company. They have about half of the lithium-ion battery production in the world. Yeah. And I would say that, that's because China builds factories really fast. They just do.
Right.
Yeah. And so there's a natural advantage that they have on a world scale. China also is now half the world's steel production.
Oh,
They're a big steel consumer, but they also build factories very fast.
right.
So I think there are they have enough capital and they build factories very fast. So I think the dynamics of each type of industry might be different. The reason I asked, is it about software, is I can see that in software quite clearly.
It's mostly about software.
Okay, where returns are not proportionate to the capital investment.
Yeah.
Right. You don't have to build a new factory to sell, build two factories to sell twice as much software. That's not how it works. You just make the software once and costs almost nothing to distribute it. So I think in software it works. I think in other things, I'm not sure. And I also haven't read the book, so I can't say what it means to position yourself that way. But I think just being ahead of the curve matters.
Yeah.
But then, Netscape had the browser first, and then they got acquired.
Yeah.
Right? Or, Google built Chrome, and until Chrome came out, other browsers were ahead of it.
Yeah.
But then, I think
Internet Explorer just sort of disappeared.
Yeah, and I think I don't know if it was then, but I do know that Google pays smartphone makers enormous sums of money.
Yes.
To have the
Google
right
as a default engine. Yes.
Right. So so I mean, capital matters.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the answer is.
How much capital has to do with it? Yeah. That's a fair point. But even in hardware, 90% of, if you look at SpaceX, 90% of the launches into orbit, payload into orbit ends up being SpaceX. Up until recently, Tesla in EVs was leading market share in a lot of markets.
Yeah.
So somehow in that place, I guess like broadly in technology, and that you're right, it's probably a function of capital sources.
BYD came in, built all these factories, sold a lot of cars, and now is ahead.
So outpacing manufacturing and hardware seems to be the
in manufacturing, it's capital and the ability to deliver factories quickly. And Europe, you get stuck in permitting because there's some nest of some bird in the forest next to the factory, and the wildlife community is not agreeing for the permits to be issued. That's a different matter, right?
Yeah.
But in Asia, you build factories fast, you have sufficient capital. In software, certainly the thesis, I can see this. That's clear. In other places, capital might matter for acquisitions, or cost of capital might matter. Car rentals, cars are a capital heavy business. And if your cost of financing them is 1% lower than others, the debt cost, you have a huge advantage. So I don't know if without reading the book, it's not fair to comment, but I think it may be different for different industries. Yeah. This thesis certainly does work for software.
Yeah, I guess for most of the physical world where you have deep perspective, having been in the manufacturing business, speed and ability to be able to build factories and the capital networks you have, it seems to be more relevant. Yeah. How should one think about choosing business partners and co-founders for a new venture? And how did you do it for your newest company? And please do share a little bit about your newest venture.
So the company is called OnZero. We're based in Austria. And our goal is to make the cost of compute, i.e. running data centers, the cost of delivering computation, zero. In one sense, compute is now ubiquitous, like we need it like air. Right? We can't live without computation, right? Our phones or apps or whatever else. So why should it cost so much? Air is free.
Right.
So, for universal acceptance, something should be very, very cheap. And I've been very concerned for many years about the problem of heat, the generation of heat for home or industrial heat. As I'm sure consumes almost 40% of the world's energy. And it's a critical problem to solve how heat is produced because it harms the environment. And data centers from that perspective are sort of an absurd business if you approach it from a manufacturing angle. In a factory, if you were to say, well, we waste 99% of the raw material, that sounds like a crazy idea.
Yeah.
But in a data center, it seems to be okay to waste 99% of the electricity as heat. And very few data centers around the world, maybe 10% of the industry do some form of heat recovery, but they don't do it well. So there's a huge amount of wastage and waste heat generated in data centers. And the company harnesses that waste heat. and harnesses it naturally at the right temperatures and flow rates for it to be commercially usable. That's kind of the challenge with data center heat. The challenge is not to recover heat. That's doable. The challenge is recovering it at heat at a high enough temperature for it to be useful without a lot of investment to make it useful. And that's what we do. We recover heat, all of it. We recover 99% of electrical energy in a data center as commercial grade heat, sell it to recover between half and 2/3 of the electricity cost. And for the remainder of the electricity cost, we allow the chips in the servers to be used in a way to stabilize the power grid. And that's typically done by using large grid scale batteries to make sure the power grid is stable. But you can change the amount of energy in the data center by speeding up or slowing down chips. And that consumes or decreases the amount of energy inside, increases or decreases the amount of energy inside. So that makes the grid stable, and power grids pay for that. That covers the rest of the energy costs. So computation is free. That's what we do. Our work saves a fair bit of carbon dioxide. So we buy zero carbon electricity like many data centers do. But when we sell heat, the customer for the heat turns off boilers, gas boilers, oil boilers. So they consume less fossil fuels. So it's good for the environment. And then because we transfer heat out by selling it, we don't need water for cooling, which is another critical problem in data centers. When we transfer the heat out, the system inside naturally cools. Our heat customer takes the heat, so we don't need to add water to cool the heat. So that's what we do. And in terms of this company, I'm not a founder. There are two founders of the company already, but I was trying to solve a problem related to this in the heat industry and needed frequencies controlled software. And this was one of the few companies 5 years ago that I found that made frequency controlled software. So I spoke to a number of companies. I really like these guys. They were sort of humble and kind of they're Austrians, so kind of humble, send people from the middle of Europe who kind of are matter-of-factly and straightforward, and there's no positioning. It's pretty transparent how they operate. Right. So I really like their personalities. And then we decided to build this together. So that's what happened.
Austria seems to be a common thread in a lot of the
tech people here.
A lot of the stories that have come out. What keeps leading you back to Austria?
Yeah, I mean, this was it, right? So it was the Austrian School of Economics. You were speaking about that.
Yes.
So I think it's coincidental. Okay. I mean, I always appreciated that school of thought from an economics perspective, but yeah, somehow I ended up building a business out of there because of the people, the talent. So we got along on that basis that the personalities matched. And they wanted to do something ambitious like I did, and our ideas matched. So we got onto this endeavor together and spent 2 years in research and stealth, and 18 months also in stealth testing. Right. And then we delivered what we think is a really interesting product into the market. But in general, founders, I think I've found them in different ways, based on commonality of purpose and interest. When I was building this zero carbon steel business in the Middle East, in the UAE, it was that there was another entrepreneur who wanted to do the same thing, and we ended up at the same meeting, and we got along, and we kind of decided to do it together. So that was a more typical founder story, both of us being co-founders. This was a little bit different. So I guess there's no formula. I know that venture firms, venture studios put founders together also. So I hope that works. I don't know if that's the best formula.
I don't know if that works.
Right? But there is a commonality if there's a studio or a fund that, is putting it together. There's some commonality. So I guess you need to find some commonality to have it. But in the end, the personalities need to match. Yeah. That's really what it comes down to. By match, I mean have to be compatible. Right. Yeah.
How do you... The best people to, I guess, work with are people you've known for slightly longer period of time, and you've been able to track, keep in touch, track their journeys, have more data points essentially on it's a we were talking about data points, right? So it's more about having data points that you get over time, which I guess it gives you at least some sense of what you're walking into. Whereas if you walk into something within a few months of meeting someone, isn't that really high risk?
Yeah. I mean, the risk level reduces the more you know them.
Yeah.
But sometimes the trigger has to be pulled and you need to go move forward. And if you keep waiting for the perfect outcome,
right,
then you'll be waiting a long time and never pull the trigger.
Is this where you practice the 70%?
Yeah. Yeah. You need to have some confidence interval.
Right.
And if the threshold is passed, that's sufficient. You have to take some risk, right? So different people have a different tolerance for that, but you have to take some risk.
Do you think compared to most people, you have a pretty high tolerance for getting into these business relationships?
Yeah, in general, when I was an undergrad, I was in a class, and the professor told me that I seem to have some sort of positive affinity for risk. I said, what does that mean? He said, like you take risk because you like taking risk. I said, like a gambler.
Yeah.
He goes, you could say that. but he was joking around about that last comment. Yeah. But I think some people are tuned to accept more risk, entrepreneurs in general. And within that framework, some entrepreneurs take even more risk.
Right.
But, I think entrepreneurs in general are quite disciplined. They evaluate risk, but they also evaluate the opportunity cost of not pulling the trigger.
Yeah.
So you have to have a high level of risk tolerance in general. And I think that's probably true about me.
If you have a range of opportunities as it grows with, as you advance in life, how do you evaluate opportunity cost?
Yeah, I mean, we don't have unlimited time or unlimited resources in general. So you've got to make choices. I mean, that's what life is about, right? So many choices. So yeah, you can't do everything.
Is there a scale of interestingness? Is there a scale of what you care about?
Impact. The outcome of what so if I enjoy dealing with solutions related to heat, for example, or climate, in a broader sense, then, if one thing has a much greater payoff in terms of outcome in that impact, then I would spend more time doing that. And there could be something incredibly exciting, may have a high impact, but is so far out in the future that, the planet might be dead by then. So, if it's far out, then you think like this is not going to help now.
Right.
And many things have much less impact. So you drop them on that basis. Right. But you have to revisit the ones that have low impact.
Right.
Because things change in technology, right?
You're right.
And I've seen things that I thought were completely stupid ideas. But there's now innovation taking place in climate in that particular era that completely will shift what's happened in that sector.
Oh, specifically in climate.
In climate, like there's some climate businesses or technologies that require massive subsidies to be sustainable. And I've been quite critical of those. But, recently I've come across some entrepreneurs that have a radically different way of addressing that same thing. Radically different. Taking that technology that requires a subsidy to be feasible into a domain where there's no subsidy required and it would be incredible impact.
So it's a business model innovation in a way.
No, it's a technological
innovation.
Yeah,
I see.
Addressing the same problem. So if you can't write stuff off in tech, right? So something that doesn't seem attractive today might be in the future. So you still track things you've dropped.
Okay, so strong opinions loosely held.
That's one way to say it, I guess.
The tech version of it.
I mean, strong opinions, but waiting to be proven wrong.
Waiting to be proven wrong, I see. If a friend described life goals to me in this way, where he would look at every mega project in life as at least a decade long endeavor, and you maybe you're really good at managing things in parallel, but mostly you maybe get to do 6, 7 in life or 5, 6 in life. So what are some of the things that you still think about that you would like to be able to solve, or problems you think about? Maybe you're not actively thinking, because you told me before you started the steel manufacturing business in the UAE, which became probably one of the second largest businesses or largest businesses, right, in the country, in the Middle East, I guess, you had been researching it for 6 years, right? So you think about things for a very long period before jumping into these problems. What are some problems that you think about that you want to go after?
Yeah, now my attention is entirely, first of all, I would say that the 10-year cycle is probably right. To really solve something, to understand it, to find a solution to it, if you're starting from scratch, to be innovative and building a business around it, staffing it, building the capability to produce the product and our service and deliver it. It really is a 10-year cycle to build some sort of scale. And I spend all my time thinking about heat. It's kind of an obsession with heat, the transfer of heat.
So the last 5 years have been all heat.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I can see the next 5 or 10 years easily being heat. It's a big subject.
Right.
It's all kinds of heat.
No, it is. It is. When you first told me, I was like, wait, nobody's ever talked to me about heat transfer this way.
Yeah.
Because nobody probably thinks about it as much.
Yeah.
Which is weird, but also interesting, that you've been able to spot how you can make this business opportunity while having impact, which is very interesting.
Yeah. Like, think about it this way. Everyone knows that we need a huge amount of electricity to do AI compute.
Yeah.
And that's certainly true. But also there's a lot of electricity, and there's a shortage of electricity for AI compute. There's a lot of electricity already, certainly in Europe, that's going into decarbonizing heat.
I see.
Like every European country has tens of thousands of megawatts being added in order to shut down boilers that burn gas or coal or oil and replace, or biomass, and replace them with electric boilers. That electricity is going in anyway, right? So we don't need to add new electricity. That's happening. But OnZero, what it produces is really a semiconductor boiler as a data center. So the idea was that this electricity is happening anyway, and 99% of the electricity has a conversion to heat in an electric boiler. We can do the same thing using semiconductors, semiconductor boiler. And we don't need to build new power plants for that portion of compute. Now that's a pretty powerful idea, and really good from a heat perspective, a decarbonizing heat perspective, and great for the environment and at scale.
Right.
So that's one tiny piece of one section of heat. There's a lot to solve in this puzzle.
Yeah, that's fair. You could look at it. You could even go way beyond data centers and
just industrial heat that's wasted.
Heat as a category, this is potentially like. Yeah,
if you go to a heavy industry plant, temperatures inside this plant in furnaces are running at 1500 degrees Celsius, for example. But the waste heat coming out is at hundreds of degrees. Now, some of the waste heat in most plants is recaptured and used for something else, but a lot of it is wasted. At the same time, we're burning enormous quantities of fossil fuels to generate heat at those temperatures, the exit temperatures.
Right.
Like there's a lot that's industrial waste heat. What's low temperature for industry and therefore not being recovered, but it's high for a lot of things.
Right.
So there's a lot to think about in heat. And there's so much wastage.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think industry has to be reconfigured in very big ways. I just spend my time thinking about heat and trying to solve problems.
I just started thinking beyond data centers, and I'm realizing what a big opportunity this is.
Yeah.
Which I don't think people are spending enough time on.
Correct.
Well, nobody I know seems to be spending time on it. But for another time, we'll leave this. But you seem to have many interesting thoughts that you obsess over. This is probably one of them.
Yeah.
What advice would you give your 30-year-old self?
Something around making choices even more carefully than I did. Choices about what to spend my time on. Sometimes.
Are there examples you can share?
Yeah, sometimes I just went headfirst into things and ideas that I thought were very exciting, only to have to step back and not do it because it wasn't as exciting or there was some other flaws in it. So to be less impulsive, some level of impulse is required,
right?
But I think I was maybe too impulsive. I don't know if we spoke about this earlier, but the cost of a bad decision is much greater than the upside of a win.
Yeah.
So I think to be less impulsive, you would make fewer bad decisions. And the effect, to use the earlier part of our conversation, of avoiding a series of compounded bad decisions is a massive gain. So I would tell myself to be less impulsive.
Being less impulsive leads to less bad decisions.
Not just in business, in general. In life decisions.
Yeah.
To reflect even more.
Right.
So yeah.
Is there something you have changed your opinion about in the last year? Something you've gone 180 on? Something you've had to unlearn? Or the last 3 years could be.
Yeah, there's some geopolitical stuff, but I can't say it on camera. So I've changed
Yeah,
my opinion.
I'll ask off camera then. What is the most contrarian take you've had in the last year?
Most contrarian take. Also, I have a geopolitical opinion that I can't say.
I lead the foreign policy.
Yeah, on that front, things shift, and I have some views, but not the ones I can share in public, without getting into trouble.
All right, another off-camera take. Well, I am a TV shows guy, so you're clearly a movies guy. So we can
both. I watch a lot of TV.
Shows. What are your favorite shows? Have you seen Dark Matter on Apple?
I have. It's pretty good.
It's pretty good.
I liked it. If you watch foreign language shows, there is a French spy show called Le Bureau. Le Bureau. The Bureau. That refers to the French Secret Service that deals with the work outside of France, DGSE, which is like the CIA. And it's a very real show. It's not like one superhero type spy guy who kills everyone. It's not like that.
Right.
It's real.
Okay.
It is amazing. I'm pretty sure it's on Amazon.
Oh, Le Bureau. Okay.
Le Bureau. And it has 4 or 5 seasons. It's, I think, truly an astoundingly good spy show. Yeah.
I love spy shows. I'm going to watch. Yeah, okay.
And it feels real. I mean, he has a daughter, they have relationships, so there's some personal stuff but it's just the right quantity of that versus what's going on in the spy agency versus his field operations versus his personal struggles versus the actual, kind of action element to it.
So it's not like Homeland, which is all action and...
Homeland I thought was really good because the character development and the struggles of her kind of obsessive behavior, that was really interesting.
The first 3 seasons
the stories were kind of okay.
Yeah.
But it was a good show. It was entertaining. But Le Bureau is quite different.
Have you seen The Diplomat?
I have.
Oh, okay.
Completely not how the reality is. Although I wasn't an American diplomat.
You've been an ambassador. So.
Yeah, but I was an American diplomat. But that show is Hollywood. It's not really what goes on. But entertaining. Definitely entertaining.
I was just curious if, that sort of thing was happening behind closed doors, no?
No, that's just not how things happen. But yes, but it's entertaining.
So that's not how you become VP, I see. Have you... the Apple TV has some great sci-fi shows.
Yeah.
Have you seen Tehran?
I have.
What an interesting show. What an interesting time.
Yeah.
What an interesting time.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So do you have any recommendations? Since I'm just talking about shows we both seen.
Shows. I mean, I can tell you some kind of... I mean, the new Count of Monte Cristo movie is not bad. I thought pretty good. I mean, I love the book.
Count
of Monte Cristo.
Count of Monte Cristo.
Yeah, like the classic book.
Okay.
I think they made a movie in the 70s or the 80s, and there's a new movie that's come out. It's the same story of the book, but it's more newer actors or whatever. But if you like revenge, that may be the world's greatest revenge story. But the movie's all right. I mean, obviously not as good as the book.
I like my fair share of revenge.
Yeah, okay, there you go. There you go. What else? I mean, favorite movie probably is, I think you might think I'm shallow, but The Fifth Element. Bruce Willis and Mila Jovovich. It's a sci-fi movie about aliens and a love story and action.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I think it's an incredible movie.
Oh, that's great. Okay.
Yeah, but it's not cerebral, but it's great. It's definitely worth watching. It's weird that I rank it as my favorite movie.
It's from the 90s?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, very late 90s maybe.
Okay.
Or early 2000s, something like that.
Yeah.
Late 90s probably.
Bruce must have been in his prime.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Favorite book?
To Kill a Mockingbird.
Why?
Story about justice. Or at least a man fighting for justice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Huh. That tracks.
I think I read it when I was a kid, and it had a profound impact on me.
Right.
About understanding doing the right thing. Understanding that you should do the right thing.
That tracks perfectly.
Yeah.
with what you mentioned on your takeaways from your mom and how I guess over dinner we also talked about how infuriating it is to see injustice, I guess, overall.
Yeah.
Well, let's see what I might get an answer on. I guess we'll end with you. You mentioned over dinner as well. You think about your time really, really carefully, and we've touched upon this in many different ways, but this is something I would end on. How do you think about allocating your time?
Yeah, so I plan very far ahead for the big things in the year, a conference or a trade show, children's holidays, those sorts of things. They all get built into the calendar quite early, and then everything else gets worked around there. That doesn't mean that everything is sacred, but we try to keep those things as pure as possible. But then my work calendar gets built around there. Also my academic stuff, I do some stuff in that space. And, I say no to a lot of things, whether it's sort of media stuff or, meeting a lot of people want to meet, and I'm like, but it's great, just send me an email, or, and this is fine, and my, so-and-so will take it from here, or it's not really necessary. Some things you can do on a video call efficiently, if it's a specific technical thing or an introductory thing, but many things work so much better, as I think you'd agree, in person. And if some relationship is going to be complicated, like deep complicated, whether it's a work one or something else, then the first interaction being in person is a big advantage.
How did you, I guess in your 30s, and how has it changed from your 30s and I guess early 40s?
You mean the way I interact?
Time allocation.
Time management.
How's that evolved?
Yeah, it was very compared to now, it was poor then, right? I mean, it was normal for that age and era, but I was a lot less diligent with my time. I'd say yes to many more things. Now it's just, I say yes to very few things.
Right.
So I need my time now to be able to think.
Right.
And to be free. And, so I don't like interruptions. I like to do just one thing at a time and get it done. And I don't think that was the case when I was 30. I would try to multitask. I don't know if it was possible or not, but I think I was doing it. But now I just do one thing at a time. I don't take on too many commitments that are hard, time-wise, things like that. I'm quite diligent. I don't really serve on too many boards, advisory boards, any of those sorts of things. I do, but it's quite rare.
Yeah.
So yeah, then I had many such commitments.
Right.
So yeah.
Well, the time is arguably the most valuable thing anyone has. Well, this has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you
for recording your first long form podcast with me. It was an absolute pleasure.